Do you want to ask a question before we begin?
Do I want to ask a question?
While you're here.
Yeah, I was kind of curious about. You're a therapist, aren't you?
That's right.
Are you still working as a therapist?
I am indeed, yeah.
Have you noticed? Did you notice a change in how you worked as a therapist following your awakening?
So this happened post-awakening. I mean, the training. So because I wouldn't have been able to do it prior to that. So.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, yeah. So it actually made it possible in a sense because it wouldn't have been. So, but yeah, I mean, but I imagine that the answer to your question would be no, that it doesn't make a difference, as in the only difference would be that there's more presence, there's more like sort of like just being with somebody. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so there's more kind of just more of the kind of like that's there, but therapy remains the same for me. It, you know, because they're separate things for me. They're very separate things, psychological and this, you know, but they both arise together, but so it's not about just sitting there and sort of thinking that the state of peace or presence is going to kind of heal somebody. I'm sure it does obviously affect the nervous system because our nervous systems affect each other, but you know, but other than that, it doesn't.
I was just curious because I mean I work as a therapist as well,
Okay.
and I find that I think a lot of the work is about kind of improving people's version of the stories that they have about themselves and the world.
I don't find that as a therapist. That doesn't mean much to me, and it's not about improving it. It's about confronting it. It's about taking it seriously, because a lot of people don't take it seriously. It's not that the story exists or doesn't exist. It's the fact that people tend to minimize that story. For me, like, it's the fact that they tend to minimize it. They tend to, you know, actually not even explore it. I mean, because that's all we have, and a lot of it's unconscious. So a lot of the story lives in the body because that's, you know, and so what you ignore in the head is going on in the body anyway. So it's about processing the body stuff, being able to articulate that. So it's bringing the mind and body together. It's like, so that's it. That is the unconscious and everything that we've repressed, denied, ignored, and had shamed out of us, or like, you know, not about making it better, but because that's the problem. There's a morality around that too. Let's make it better. Let's clear it up. Let's make it go away. Maybe it won't go away actually, but if you can actually accept it, I mean, you may not even be able to accept it, but just look at it. I mean, there's freedom in that, and also there's health in that. Like, you know, and I'm not just saying that. I've lived that and I've experienced that post-awakening as well. You know, not pre, because I wasn't capable of it. So, you know, it's not it's not just about like learning this stuff, you know.
Sure, but I mean, I suppose the point I'm making is that, yeah, I mean, everything you're saying, you know, in my experience is absolutely true. Yeah, but pre-awakening, it's still a story, isn't it?
I mean, it's all you've got. I mean, it's all you've got. There's just, okay,
yeah.
so there's, yeah, you know, okay, so there's just this, but in your relating with somebody else, what have you got? I mean, apart from, you know, you may have the whatever, the love and the intimacy and all that, but I mean, it's what we share, right? And there are real effects of that story, and there are real effects with you and with somebody else and what's created there, and all that is, I mean, it's the gift we have. I mean, all we have is relating, really, you know, as well as just sitting in nature. I mean, so that story is important, and where that story goes depends on how we accept it, how much of it we see and how much of it we do take seriously. And it doesn't have to be take seriously in the sense of it being really reified and, you know, like, I mean, the ruminative stuff tends to fall away in this, doesn't it? So, you know, you're not necessarily living from this story, but like the body kind of is, you know, you ignore something, you know, it will have real effects because, you know, that's what we are constructed on the basis of. And so, I don't know, does that answer your question? But, you know, and all our habits are formed early, aren't they? So
I suppose I imagine, you know, at the point of awakening, that I'd have trouble continuing to be a therapist.
absolutely none here. If emptiness is seen, you know, without the fullness, you might do. Also, if there's repression there, you know, still there, like a lot of that, well, maybe you will, because you may not realize the importance of that, and you may have bought into the story that the story isn't important. It wasn't important to me when I woke up at all, and I bore the consequences of that. And it is because I recognized that I was still living from an old story. So you can't escape it. Like, how can you escape that? There's nothing in the mind, but there's still something in the body. So the body responds and it moves in a certain direction in life. It will gravitate towards certain people, perhaps people that maybe don't want the best for you, or, you know, like, I mean, maybe you're lucky enough that that's not the case or whatever, but as a therapist, it's probably better in a sense, not better in a sense, but if it hasn't been the case, it's more likely that you're going to be a therapist because you have come through something. It's important to come through something, so you know that transformation is important, right? And otherwise, what the hell have you got to give people? You know, well, you might do. I shouldn't say that. Maybe people do, but just it seems more obvious that it's easier if you believe that talking or feeling is important. Otherwise, what are you doing, really? Do you know, like, because I think a lot of people think, you know, that there's something missing then if they're a therapist and they don't have that. Oh, there might be something more difficult if you're dealing with clients who are awake, because you could easily patronize them, or you could easily misinterpret what they're experiencing, what, you know, what is problematic and what is not, might be confused because things are problematic and not problematic at the same time. It's very, very hard to describe this in terms of living, because it can be, your life can be a complete mess and you can suffer the consequences and not suffer the consequences at the same time. So it's, you know, and, you know, it's not in the bloody textbooks how this works. It really isn't. It's, so you're kind of on your own, I think, after awakening to a certain extent, because if you're you know, because normal therapy doesn't include this dimension, in the sense that you need to experience it to know, and to not pathologize what in fact is healthy, which is very, very easy to do. And so it's
so you can still find yourself in dysfunctional relationships and be awake then.
Well, that's repression in it, isn't it? So your original relationship, say, with your parents is like that. Maybe you've got one parent who's narcissistic, say, so you end up in relationships and maybe in friendships, maybe with a boss who's like that, and you don't recognize it, because a lot of people, they don't recognize what horizontal relationships look like, you know, on a level, equality, because equality is like that, not just for the narcissist, but for the codependent or the people pleaser or the doormat. They expect the person to be above them, so that's what they're looking for. So it's just energetic. You will have a, you know, if you, you know, in that extreme, you will have an attraction to, like, someone who's narcissistic or someone who's, you know, that will continue. Why wouldn't it? Because it, as long as that hasn't been seen through. So you know, the fear, you know, the childhood fear of telling mommy and dad, you know, like of saying what was the case in childhood, of like actually being able to look back and say, actually, I was really neglected. Actually, I had a really shit time. Because there's this whole thing around, don't criticize your parent. I mean, I'm not talking about to their face, because it's never very helpful anyway. Well, it could be in certain cases. I'm not going to speak for,
Yeah.
but it's not about that. It's about symbolically doing it in a room, doing it in front of someone else. And people are afraid to go there. They're always trying to justify back, well, you know, my parent had a parent who had a parent who did this, who had a parent, and it's just this infinite regress, rather than, you know, I had a shit time and I can own that, and it wasn't fair. And I also love, or I also have this, or I have that, but all of it, like there's a whole, because we're just full of all this ambivalent feeling, like it's not just one thing anyway, like, but so many people just can't go there. So if the anger is, you know, some people's turned outward, in my case, it was turned inward. So it was self-destructive that played out here, you know, which the non-dual put an end to that, but it didn't rectify the scenario, you know, the situation. So
are you saying that what you're describing there, that the residue of that still continues in the body?
It's not even a residue, it's the whole damn thing. I mean, it's just, so there's nothing in the mind is at peace, the body's, yeah, you know, there is peace. You could be in a bliss state, but you know, but you can still be acting out the patterns. I mean, it just seems to me, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, maybe other people experience it different. This is my experience of it. This is how it plays out, and I've seen it with other people. You know.
Yeah, no, I've just joined the group, and I have exactly the same thing. I've turned throughout my life. Oh, hi everybody, by the way. I'm Robert. Yeah, nice to meet you all.
Hi.
Yeah, I relate to what you're saying, Dawn, 100%. It's like I still feel, it's like having daggers put in your body. It's like, for me, it's like having emotional daggers put in my body, where it's like I've got to release them somehow. And my journey at the moment is precisely that. Is from about the age of 35 to where I am now, 40. Well, 41. I've been on a bit of a journey, and I've realised that with all this anger that I've been feeling, it's like rather than walk around with it and bottle it up and do that repressive British thing or whatever you want to call it. From about the age of it's better to get out there and talk about these things.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, because where have you gone? I don't know where you've gone, but oh, there you are. Yeah,
I'm here. I can hear everything you're saying. So
you've had a similar experience. So you woke up and found you were bottling stuff, just suppressing it, pushing it down, and now you're talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it took the death of a loved one to realize that, and for me to go, oh, I've got to wake up, you know.
I think sometimes it does take something big as well. So it might not, even if it's not the awakening, to make you kind of take stock and start to think things seriously as well. Yeah. So it's not about dumping on your friends, is it? It's about
no way.
Which is another form of, I don't know, yeah, abuse, I suppose, but yeah, just being able to talk about that in a safe space with a confidant, or, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, funny you mentioned therapist. I'm seeing a therapist on Thursday, and so I've been given this new avenue to go down. So I'm very grateful for that. And I noticed with this non-duality group, it's really good because you cut through all the bullshit and go straight to the chase.
All right, okay. And for you had an awakening then, and when did you? Oh yeah, you said 35, is it?
Yeah, kind of between the age of 35 to where I am now, 41.
Right.
I've been in a state of basically growth, really.
Oh, growth. Okay. Right. Okay. So
maturity, to be honest.
All right. No, that's cool. It's exciting as well, I think, too, isn't it? Because you start to see more and more. And I know people experience that differently as well. For some people, it's painful because there's often having to deal with regret as well, which is another non-duality no. You're not supposed to feel it. But regret is not the same as like maybe clinging on to that, but it seems more like here it's experienced as a kind of relief almost, and a curiosity of like, wow, like I thought it was this way and it's that way and it feels better, and there's, I don't know, and it reinvigorates you because it creates new possibilities, and then you do move in different directions, and you find you got that anger, you've got your courage. That's the thing that moves you forward. That's the thing that, you know, because without that, like, I mean, some people can actually, without anger, they just move, but a lot further,
Yeah,
I think we need
like
it.
yeah, it's an interesting concept, isn't it? Because I think it's for many people who thrive off of anger, they do that because it's what they've grown up knowing, or they pass through life knowing.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I do think there's an element of maybe for the people that do thrive with this energy is trying to operate, is figuring out a way to operate on a different energy. Is like, you know, figuring out a way of being a bit more at peace with yourself and not having to fight everything to get through everything, because a lot of us are brought up to do with that. Like your dad's angry at you, so you've got to clean up the house, blah blah blah.
Right, okay. Yeah.
So it's like I don't necessarily think that's a good way to progress forward, as like, say, like when you get to your 40s and 50s. I don't think really, I think as you get older, life teaches you that you can't really go that route. You've got to figure out a nice place, a nice little piece to fit in with, a nice piece, a little bit of like make your jigsaw not so black and white.
Yeah. For some people it happens naturally, because of course kids see entirely in black and white, don't they? And so it is, and it's kind of tolerating the ambivalence, and you know, all the different parts of ourselves, that because we see things in so many different ways, and accepting all those different ways of seeing a situation, which a lot of people,
yeah, like keeping a bit of what you've learned in your youth, but also I think it's essential for all of us to step up and to kind of whether it's through therapy or whatever, is just to step up for ourselves. And like if we want to start talking about like self-love and things like that, and self-appreciation, it's like we do have to do that. We do have to listen to this, to the part of us that actually is kind of more sensitive and more aware and more in tune with what's actually was correct for us, and as human beings, you know, as beings of really, we all want the same thing. We all want to be loved, appreciated, and to feel an element of comfort in our lives.
Yeah, and to be taken seriously and respected and all those things as well.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Wait, you, Walter?
Sorry, I have a habit of just jumping into a conversation. So yeah, just I'll take a sit back and listen for a bit. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Robert.
I missed it.
Any other questions? I think we have one coming in. Yes, jump right in.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, yeah. Please do.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to see you guys, because like 8 months ago, I have this major shift on my consciousness, and I think I'm still integrating everything. That was very profound. And when I start like following what's happened, and I come across of non-duality, but even this for me is everything is beyond non-dual concept. I've heard before about the Kundalini awakening as well, because I never had this experience. Apparently what's happened to me, I had like energy shift towards my spine and everything go up, and I was like going through this like a vision about Christ energy, consciousness, Christ consciousness, and my whole life just roll in and everything disappeared. I disappeared, everything disappeared in one moment, and I've been left with this emptiness and sadness about like grieving process. And my question is relating to this, because even though when I have the understanding, I'm still like confronting this spontaneous crying, like, oh, that's just a story. And it's like, it's really difficult sometimes, but yeah, I don't know how to cope really with that. I know it's no question. I know that's it. That's what we have, is just this. Even for me, I have this awareness that even asking question, I play in this dual game. But I don't know if that's my mind trying to hold and grasp something, because I left with nothing. I was therapist. I was working with medicine as well. And everything became in one moment like just a story. And yeah.
But it's, I mean, how does it feel when it's happening then?
Actually, I was happy. I when this happened, I have as well like realization, because I was working with ancestors as well as a shamanic practitioner with medicine, ayahuasca, peyote, kambo, all this. I was the huge seeker, and in this, because I have few glimpses, like 8 years ago, I had like samadhi. I labeled this as a samadhi, and I was the enlightenment seeker. I want to feel this, and I was chasing this, running for different session, therapy, healing, working with energy, working with dreams. I had always like very conscious dream level. I was aware of my dreaming. I have like out of body experience as well. All these realms were open, and sadly everything just go now, no dreams, nothing. Right. After the experience, I had just like non-thoughts, nothing. And understanding, oh, that's it is. And that was like certain bliss. But then like the reality back, I was like pulled back. And yeah, it's quite confusing.
Okay, all right, okay. So it's the story is seen through, but the grief is happening, and
it was connected as well because 2 years ago my father died, and I had this understanding of death, and I had like certain connection because I was working with the dreams. I was on the time I believed that I was a worker and I have a connection with dead people, and I could reach the connection, which gave me as well like ease of like understanding that doesn't exist.
Okay.
And when this happens, I have like grief for everyone, everything. Whole, oh my God.
But it feels like good as well then, like it
is, but it's like this missing part of, that's just a story.
And that, I mean,
and then I had this like in my heart, I had like explosion of love to everyone.
Right.
And understanding why we are here, because we're holding certain space when we can just exist. It's just the one space when we can be really, and it doesn't matter what we do. It's no such a thing like good or bad. It's beautiful. And that's the dream space for these things which try find. Because when you go there and you try find, what is this? You go into madness, you can lose everything. Yeah. I don't know if you know what
it's beautiful. It's like, but you know, like the worry, I suppose I think is like just, you know, like
I had even a moment when I want suicide. I want to kill myself because but I know it's like it's no escape.
Yeah. Yeah. But so it sounds quite, I mean, it's overwhelming as well, but maybe not at the same time as overwhelming. I don't know how you experience it, but
now it's like I'm surprised that I have any emotion now, but it might be some kind of like releasing certain things, but it's like 8 months period gone, but I feel like it's easier and easier, and I go just with the life, with the flow. Everything is so peaceful. I do not create any ideas about anything. I know everything is concept. I'm not attached to anything, but somehow as well I'm attached to everything. It's so difficult.
Yeah. It's massive contradictions, isn't it? It's massive paradox.
Yes, it's paradox. It's huge cosmic joke, I can say.
But yeah,
But still, I'm a human. I experience this as a human conscious. I know I'm everything. I have moments when I just zone in and I see it's not difference, it's no separation between chair and wall, it's none, everything is like one. But then I have the play, I will pretend that I'm separate. And I play Beata. That's very like.
Maybe it's settled down in a way, because it's easy to like even try to conform to that, like, because the grief is coming and it's
even like interacting with normal life. I have daughter, will be grandmother in a few weeks.
Okay.
And it's beautiful. I quite enjoying this, but as well. Yes, I know it's like as well. It's like never-ending story with this. Is you can't hit the wall and say yes, that's it. All is fine, done. I know everything because I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I was watching you and Walter like for such a long time, and somehow I think like, oh, I have next fixation to find the ease of what is happening, but I couldn't resist. I just popped today because I thought like, anyway, I'm sorry if I take your time.
But no, I think it takes a while, like, to kind of see what's what, you know, and like it's saying is sort of like sometimes, okay, so the story is seen through, but sometimes it's like almost like a trying to conform to that so that all your experience should be that, because also there's a huge release going on, and you know, I don't know, maybe old trauma coming up, and it's kind of beautiful as well, but you're still kind of, I don't know, finding your way.
I have this this grieving process is like quite intensive. Sometimes I end up lying down on the floor, crawling like in a child position because I couldn't move.
Whoa, okay. Oh.
And then now I teach myself to do not label this as a bad experience, even don't give label as a grief, but it's still there. I just like, I had moment and I just cry.
Okay, so it's huge sobbing, and it's no mental content. I take it is very much the emotion and not the thought. Then is it like that?
It's very difficult to say. What
okay.
I can sense, like when I was watching your interviews always gave me some ease, because I find out like on an energetical level I can like pluck myself.
Right, okay.
Yeah, like it's quite similar. I think I feel this like is something there, and I feel in me as well, like it's some kind of trauma, or I don't know, even I don't want to make any idea about it.
Okay. I mean, I don't mind making an idea of it now, like, you know, but I mean, it's, you know, just for like, just because it makes it easier to kind of see what's going on. Of course, you don't know what's going on, but you know, like whatever is going on for you, it's quite big, right? And I don't know if it frightens you at times, like it takes you to some dark places, which are probably quite young as well. And
Whole my life, I was on a path of healing myself. I started from like psychology, then I was into therapy, self-healing, going to different things, different process, and going on the spiritual path as well. That was part of that. Working with the medicine, mushrooms, and all ayahuasca, peyote, all this. I guess everything put some stuff to healing process, but as well, I was like located into Story, and I ended up as a.
Oh, everything up until there is pretty light. It's not too crazy. Then you get this in, it's 3.5 hours, 3 hours. So if you
So, yes.
I understand.
So we can't hear you. That
Sorry about
Lucio?
that. I just fixed it. Sorry about that, folks. No, I had to mute him, Lucio.
Oh, thank you.
And I see you have your hand raised, Robert, but I just wanted to make sure we were finished
Oh, appreciate it. Yeah.
with our previous guest, but she disappeared.
All right.
I disappeared.
Oh, there
No,
you
you're
are.
here.
Oh, I see. Oh, I couldn't find you. There you
Are you
are.
still here?
Yeah, and
I'm sorry.
surprised.
You know, I'm not. Okay, there we go.
No, I think everything you've said resonates with me 100%, because all of what you've been going through is exactly what I've been going through. I think it's a rite of passage, and really it's a rite of passage that we all have to go through. Some of us feel it more than others. And I definitely think me and you are in a very similar category, because I've done all the same things. I've rolled about on the floor. The first thing I did when I found out my dad died was, rather than be with people, I went out into the middle of the desert in Egypt, where I was at the time, where I found out. And I just rolled around on the floor, and I just rubbed myself in the dirt and everything. I just felt like I had to express myself physically, and it's a very cathartic thing to do. I don't think there needs to be any judgment about yourself when you do things like that, because when you're a child, you don't judge yourself. You're letting your body inform what's right. And I think sometimes, rather than think things through, it's best to express physically. And I don't know if that's the inner child taking control, but it's definitely a healthy thing, and shouldn't be given. You shouldn't worry about people thinking you're nuts or anything like that, because too many people and us as humans walk around being pent up little robots, and sometimes it's just the best thing to do is just to go, fuck it. I'm just going to be, I'm just going to be myself. And I suppose if you can surround yourself with people that are in a similar mindset, that is good. That's healthy. But I love those fuck it moments,
I don't have any, I don't care. But I mean, like, I don't care. I'm not like asshole, but I don't care what people will say. I'm
that's great. That's
free
really good. That's a beautiful way to live.
Yeah, I can see this is not my idea. That's not, well, whatever anyone will think about me, that's not mine, and that doesn't belong to me. Yeah.
Have you thought about, is there possibly, I was just advised to
We
check it
we
out
have
myself.
another hand raised here. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up now.
Lucas. Yeah, just
Okay.
raise your hand virtually, everybody, in the future, if you want to. And try, keep it to questions and whatnot. Thank
Dance groups. Anyway, dance groups. Ecstatic dance groups. It's supposed to be very good for reconnecting with inner happiness.
I wanted to, sorry, what was your name again?
My name is Beata.
Beata, yeah.
Beata.
Thank you for sharing. I Yeah, I related to a lot of what you were saying as well, especially the Kundalini experience and the Christ energy. And one of the things that
It's gone as well. The
Sorry?
Christ, I have this Christ energy gone. I
Yeah.
jumped over that. That was like a bubble, this Shiva,
Yeah.
Buddha, and those avatars which holding this certain space, I was like vanished off. And then yeah, but yeah. Anyway, sorry to disturbing you.
one of the things that I've noticed sort of following that experience, there's been a huge sense of futility. And I don't know if that's the same as the grief that you're talking about, but this sense of complete meaninglessness, that, you know, it is just this story, and you're just constantly seeing through it. And I wonder if that's part of the process, that's part of the path, or is that an individual thing for each person, do you think? I'm asking the whole group.
I've got a theory that
It's not individual. It's not.
Yeah.
No, I know ultimately it's not.
Can
I wonder
you
if
just say the can you say the question again?
I wonder if there's certain kind of reference points along the way which are almost kind of universal, as opposed to just this is what's going on for me because of my childhood, for example, yeah, or my experience of the world.
Reference points for what? What do you mean?
Along the way to what?
Well, awakening, I suppose. You know, the path of awakening. You know, I know. You know, language is misleading here, but you know, I wonder if, because there's certain kind of there seems to be very sort of different kind of awakening experiences, and I wonder if it's only kind of personal, or if there's a certain kind of universality to some of these experiences.
Well, it's not personal. I mean, the whole point is it's not personal. You know, it's just one apparent happening through apparent individuals, through apparent bodies, separate bodies. But it's, you know, there's no question of it being a personal thing, or there being steps along the way.
But is that sense of,
Because it's pointing out what's always been. It's never not been already this. So, and there's no one achieving anything, enlightenment or otherwise, awakening. You can't get closer to it. It's just sort of an unveiling of what's like, oh, what was there the whole time.
but that sense of grief or futility or regret, are they things that people experience along this way?
Some people, but I don't, I think there are some things I hear that are commonalities, but I don't see it as a cause and effect thing. I don't think it's a process. It's not even an event.
Some people seem to have sudden experiences, and other people I've heard, I suppose my experience as well bears this out, it's much more of a slow kind of dissolving into something, whatever that thing is.
Well, it wasn't that way for me. So I can't speak to that. It's anecdotal. I don't know. Has anyone ever done a study on it? I don't know. But yeah, you hear sometimes gradual, sometimes sudden. The big book says these things will always materialize if we work for them. I don't know if you have to work for it. I don't think it's based on merit.
Yeah.
If anything, it's grace.
Yeah.
Which is also a concept, but I like that better.
Well, I think part of the futility, in my experience, is that there is nothing you can do.
Except for enrich your life, I feel. Your personal life, enrich it. Cut out the bad stuff and integrate the good stuff.
But that's like self-help, and I don't think non-duality is like self-help, where you give somebody.
What is non-duality then?
It's just pointing out what already is the case, which is this unbroken whole, and there's nothing separate or apart from it.
But wait, that's got to be perception, yeah? If you have that perception, that's what you're going to go forward with. So if you decide that non-duality is a perception of there's completeness of
It's not even completeness, because that's just a word also,
Yeah, but it's not just a word.
It's
a
non-conceptual.
It's a belief. It's a structure. It's a mental structure. It's a mental belief. If you go through feeling like a certain way, that's what you project into your mindset and into other people's mindset that you surround yourselves with. Do you see what I'm trying to say? I'm not trying to cause an argument.
Are you asking me a question?
Yeah, but I know I'm just asking you if you're understanding of what I'm saying.
I think so. I think you're saying it's in the mind. It's something
Absolutely.
it's like an understanding.
That's right.
Right. Yeah.
And we are the creators of through the words that we use and the beliefs that we hold, we create these feelings of having holes or completeness inside of us. Like I feel right now as we're speaking together, I feel very complete. I don't feel any emptiness at all. And I think it's something that you can work on and develop. It's like by building a structure of belief in the people that you surround yourselves and the feelings that you have. Because working at a place from loss and emptiness is a very hard road. And I think you'll keep coming back to the same thing if you don't fill that hole with something, or just at least develop a new strategy or thinking where it's like, okay, I'm a complete being. We're all valid individuals with just by being here.
But you sound like a motivational speaker.
I'm not. I'm a liver. I'm a human. I'm just trying to find my path forwards without pain,
But this isn't about how you live your life. It's not about giving it's not about giving advice. You might have the wrong channel.
I've joined the wrong group. I think
so.
I better leave. But it's nice chatting with the people and in hearing from the people that I resonated with today. So I want to say I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful for Dawn, that nice lady that spoke about her truth, and the other guys. And I'm just appreciated that we've had a bit of a nice space to chat with. So I'll say goodbye, but thank you. I'm not so keen on the host, on you, but I'll say goodbye.
Thank you.
Oh.
All right, we have questions from the chat. If nobody knows what it is or can even express it, and there are no common indicators of it, then how do you know people are talking about the same thing? Dawn, do you?
How do you know they're talking about the same thing? Well, you kind of do, don't you? I mean, that's what we look for, right? So like we're blasted open, this thing happens and doesn't happen, etc. But yeah, I mean, you know, when when it's seen that something's happened, something's changed, and of course you can see people with it's similar experience, people talking about it, you recognize it in that. You may not straight away, because of course the conceptual doesn't cut it, but you can recognize it in that. It might take you a while to, but you just know it. And also some descriptions are more, you know, experiential as well, and you know that, I don't know, that all the debris of life is kind of cleared away, so there's this piece there, you know, we all know what piece it can resonate with, that with love, and you know, it's so even though it's, you know, language doesn't, it can't be reduced to that, like it's kind of obvious, and it's also obvious just externally because you know, it's a different state of being, and it's a state of being, and when you're saying no location or whatever, I mean, you can resonate with that because the boundaries are shot, not psychological boundaries, but the physical boundaries, and you know, are just totally gone. So you may not even be able to articulate that at first. It doesn't matter, because that's just that's the rest, isn't it? It's just, so you'll recognize it, the love, because for a lot of us, I mean, intimacy is something we haven't experienced, particularly with all of life. I mean, that's, you know, apart from when we were kids, you know, very young, maybe there was an experience of that, but so these words do resonate to a certain extent. But I mean, you can spend your whole life not recognizing yourself in this and yet be awake. So but yeah, you will probably try to, because we try to understand things, we just do, something profound happens, you will want to understand it, you know, probably, maybe not, but I did. I mean, I wanted to, you know, but I had heard of non-duality, so of course it's like, but you know, not necessarily obvious at first, but as in you might think, you hear speakers talking in certain ways and you sort of think, well, I don't recognize that. But over time you can kind of, if there are doubts there, they tend to fall away, because it becomes increasingly obvious and you give less of a damn about it. I think that's the way it goes for most of us. So what about you?
Common indicators. Well, you know, one word that might be overused is like this word resonance. And it's true, though. It's, if somebody's talking about their experience or non-duality in a certain way, it just really clicks with me. I know they're saying the same thing. They're describing the same exact experience, because it's pre-verbal. It has nothing to do with the words. Some people are more poetic about it. Some people are more scientific about it, but in the end, when there's that sort of realization or the seeing of non-duality, there's just no words. And then, you know, how do you describe an absence of certain things that used to be there, you know? But when people talk about contracted energies or a sort of a different type of energy, or a neurosis or an obsession with something that doesn't even exist. The self, when that's seen through, I feel like when you hear that, somebody else expressing that, and there's just a connection and you just know. So I don't know what it is. You say it can't be expressed, but it is expressed, as best as we can with the limited words we have. I say common indicators leading up to it. I think that's what the question's referring to. I don't think everyone's stories have to be all suffering, and although that seems to be a common one, is some type of pain. But it doesn't have to be the case. Anyway. Any other questions? Either in the YouTube chat or in the Zoom. We got 9 people in the Zoom. Feel free to jump right in.
I think the desire to teach falls away as well. I was sort of thinking that, and not in a non-dual way, but like, not if you're a teacher, it's different, but there's something about, because a lot of people use that, they try to teach about non-duality if they're not awake, or they try to teach their friends about what they're going through, what it means and all that. I think there's much more of just listening, validating and seeing and exploring, rather than kind of trying to direct or seeing things as a process. And except if you're working as a psychotherapist, you're working as a non-duality teacher. I think there's that. So there's no desire to impose this anymore, or like on your friends to torture them with non-duality or anything else. That falls away, because I think that's what's meant, kind of meeting someone where they're at, like just not, because there's no desire there. There's no desire to alter someone in that way, or because there's no point, and you can't, you see when you're ready to see, and that doesn't mean anything actually either. That's kind of bullshit, but everybody has to come to this themselves. Even that's bullshit, but but there's an awful lot of it about talking about what non-duality is when it hasn't been seen, or the ideas around it, and trying to impose that. And so maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have, all of you guys, the moment when you felt like you don't want even share this with anyone? Like saying what you experience, like, because I was like, from the beginning, I was really like paralyzed, and I couldn't express even one word. I felt like it's not needed to say anything, because it might be even harmful. I have this idea, like, you don't need, you live your life, be happy as a mother, as a husband, or whatever, like, yeah, this was, yeah. That's just a question, if anyone of you guys have the same.
Oh yeah, I definitely didn't talk to anyone about it, except for people in the non-duality community, because I've only recently started putting myself out there on YouTube and stuff, but it was a while before I was, and even then I didn't, let my family know and people. I don't know if you mean people who already sort of understand
Anyone.
this or,
Anyone.
yeah. Well, there's definitely no need
Mm.
to do it. I mean, but I know what you mean. I definitely didn't feel any need to talk about it at first, but then there was sort of a little, I don't know, excitement about doing it after I kind of got the bug about speaking about it. It was kind of addictive in a way. But yeah, I had that feeling at first anyway. Dawn?
I wish I could say the same because it's more cool. But yeah, I mean, there was just that. I mean, the bliss was indescribable then, and the empty. But yeah, when I was talking to somebody, yeah, it did. It just came out like and then it didn't. For a while there was trying to talk about it, but I realized it wasn't being heard. I think that took a while to sink in. It wasn't wanted very often, and it wasn't. But it was just this fascination with what had happened as well. And it wasn't a fascination at the same time because but nothing in life other than that, was of interest anyway. There was no interest. It was just the kind of indescribable peace. And when I met someone, it kind of stuff would come out my mouth sometimes, which not always. Sometimes it would just sit and whatever, but yeah, and now that's kind of fallen away completely. I just don't mention it with anyone unless they bring it up. It just wouldn't very quickly kind of fell away, that desire, because it's just not interesting. It's just not interesting to me. And and why would you? And I find it intensely annoying when somebody tries to impose something on me, or like Christianity, or there's enough of that in life already, isn't there? It's just, Jesus, who needs to hear someone talking about non-duality? It's awful. It's like, and I don't like talking about it. I like talking about it as a subject, but not okay. Oh God, yeah. I mean, some people talk like non-duality speakers like it's a disease that gets fuck. But yeah, so eventually, yeah, it's just normal life, isn't it? So you just talk about things that are interesting, like what's going on with somebody and their life, their relationships, blah blah blah. I mean, it's just that, isn't it?
We have a question here. I'm not sure exactly, but I'll throw it to you. He says, would you be willing to share your apparent process?
I don't have a process. I mean, there is, you can talk about, the only way you can talk about the psychology is in terms of a process, really, well, not necessarily even, but definitely not the non-dual. I mean, it's not process. So there seems to be, it's not really like becoming more conscious. That seems to be happening. There seem to be Kundalini experiences. I had one the other day where a lot of my own kind of unseen darker elements came to light, stuff about myself maybe I didn't like, but like sinking into the body. I think the energetic experiences can bring stuff up, and that felt wonderful. Like it's just like, wow, that there's something just really exciting about becoming more healthy, more integrated, so that you're less, you're around less toxic people, you're less toxic to other people, there's more love, there's more, there's more freedom, and it's just a enjoy that. I find it an absolute joy. I don't know if that's everybody's experience, but here it definitely is. It's just, you know, finding out new stuff. I mean, there's an infinite curiosity here to like how this thing functions and the thoughts and feelings that go with it. And to be honest, that's really ramped up since my second Kundalini awakening. So I don't know if it's a non-dual. I think it's that, which is quite common after NDEs. There's this massive intellectual kind of curiosity that goes on. So it may not be, I don't want to really, the problem with all these things is universalizing them, and it's not necessarily true for everybody. So I'll just speak from my experience. You know, it's, you know, certainly when you talk about process, you talk about the psychological, you know, and what goes on afterwards. I don't know that it is all the same. Certainly the experience itself is, and the non-location and the collapse of the self and time and all of that is, but beyond that, speak in terms of process can help to articulate something maybe this, but it's not always appropriate. I don't know how clear that is. I don't care really. It's quite abstract, isn't it? So I don't know. Like,
Well, if Robbie wants to clarify, if he wants more.
but there's a desire to self-actualize. It's massively here. Like it is here. Whether it'll do any good or not, I don't know. It's done some, but like I think there might be limits on it as well. I think there's certain things about myself maybe that I'll never be able to shift, and how can I live with that? You know, I don't know. So I don't know, but yeah, I don't know what you, but here. But it is your second chance in a way. Like people do have that. I mean, turning points in life, like you said, death of someone close, or just a breakdown, or it's just something happens, and maybe you've come out of depression and you've got that aliveness again that you lost, and you know they're all turning points too. But this seems like a real kind of clean slate. In some ways, it's not an entirely clean slate because the psychology can continue, but you know, so it is exciting in that sense. The possibilities that maybe weren't there before, things that you were born with, qualities that you had that you kind of ignored because you weren't allowed to own those. You know, they weren't seen, they weren't encouraged. Maybe that's, you know, the stuff you can kind of encourage in yourself now, or find people that support you in moving forward. And
Well, if there are any other questions, we can take them. Otherwise, we're at about an hour. We can go a little longer if there are any questions. But we will be doing this every week. Although there is 1 week in March I can't do it. I'm going to be on a Course in Miracles podcast or something. So but they can't do it any other time except for this time on a Monday, because they are broadcasting live, kind of like the radio or something. I don't know. But so other than that, we'll be here every week.
I've got one more question.
Okay, please do.
How much did either of you know about non-duality before your awakenings, and how important was that to know about it as part of that process?
I knew, I guess I knew a pretty good amount about non-duality, and I kind of went through the typical seeking stuff. I am that. Nisargadatta Maharaj was a favorite, and Ramesh Balsekar, even Course in Miracles, other things like that. And I was interested in a guy, what's his name? It's escaping me now, but different things. I was all over the place, and I wasn't just. It wasn't just uncompromising non-duality. It wasn't really anything. It was kind of all over the place, you know. And then it just seemingly happened, you know, the awakening, and then the only thing that really resonated was the radical stuff, I would say, because what was obvious was that it was always this way, and there was never a separate entity here, and that was just mind-blowing. You know, and yeah, anyway, but just hearing that, so I connected with it more, I would say, after, which is why it doesn't seem like it was just I don't know, it was nice to hear, you know. And now it would be boring, you know, it's repetitive, but at the time it was like, oh yeah, it's like someone was putting into words what seemed inexpressible at the time, you know. So yeah, I connected with the so-called message more after. So that, if that answers your question. Yeah. Don, you want to take that one?
Well, I mean, I think I'd come across it just a couple of months before, really. So Eckhart Tolle, Alan Watts, you know, like it, which was quite easy. I mean, an easy way in a way. But yeah, obviously when it happened, it was very different than, anyway, you know, I couldn't make sense of it. I had come across Jiddu Krishnamurti a few years before, but I just totally forgotten about that, even though it's sort of, I loved reading his stuff, but it didn't, in retrospect, doesn't seem, he didn't talk much about the non-dual so much as no mind states. That's the way I see it anyway. But I found it really interesting because I'd never I wasn't very conscious of what was going on in my mind at the time. So it was a revelation to me. So that's how unconscious I was back then. So yeah, of course, things like everything and nothing. I mean, what can you make of all those? Like, you can't make anything of non-location. There's a lot of descriptions you can't make anything of until that happens, and all of it really, peace that passes understanding. Well, some people maybe get a moment of bliss or silent mind, and so maybe they understand that kind of peace, but still maybe somebody having that rather than just peace, you know. So yeah, I think that's...
We have a question from Jack Saturday. Do either of you imagine other animals experiencing awakening? I personally think animals are already awake in the sense that I don't think they have this sense of being a separate entity, and like, I don't know. I think it's all instinctual and sort of innate and organic with animals, just natural. Not that, anyway, yeah, I just don't think they have that extra layer of being free will and choice, you know, that illusion of free will and choice. Or being, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but I think they've already lacking what people are looking to drop. I think they just never had it, never will. But I don't know. I don't know what's in an animal's head. What do you think?
Well, we're conscious that we're conscious. I mean, and so for most of us, we've become identified and something falls away, and that can be reflected upon because that's what the mind does. So we are conscious of our experience. So an animal is presumably just living and not reflecting, and just so apart from Ramana Maharshi's donkey, I think I'm supposed to be awake or something. But yeah, so you can't really talk about it any more than you could talk about a baby being awake, really, because it's just wakefulness, no separation. I mean, I don't know what their experience is, but yeah. So it doesn't really have a lot of meaning, I suppose, in terms of, I'm not sure what they don't talk about it afterwards. I don't know. Yeah, so we have language, don't we? We have the ability to reflect, and yeah, so it's different in that sense. It's kind of meaningless, really, to talk about a flower being awake. Maybe it's not to the flower. I don't mean to be patronizing or like, I don't know. Maybe it's not, who knows? But we can't speak of that, so we can't really. I don't know. But some animals seem it, like they pick up on it. Sometimes I think it's like they almost, maybe some animals pick up on it, like being around it.
Do you imagine you're born awake and then identification slips in? Is the language the confusion?
Language, yeah, the language is that I think at the heart of separation, really. Yeah, pretty much. I think so. We're educated out of it, basically, and given a name and given a form, given something to do, and learn to recognize ourselves in the mirror as rather than all just this human form. So yeah, the identification, I mean, it's so strongly with mind. It just is. Your whole world can become almost entirely mind, and so you can't imagine peace. Like you can't, because it is a freedom from living from that. It can be a freedom completely from that, but a freedom from living from it, because your identity is not that. That can come as a shock and something that you can't really understand until it happens, particularly if it's if you get a lot of thought. It can be really difficult to hear this message because it almost takes a little bit of space to hear it, for it to resonate.
Yeah, being born awake. I guess it depends on what you think is born, because it never was a self to be born or die. And so awakening never really happens. I mean, it's a story like any other story. I think the bigger point of that is it has nothing to do with identification or not identification. It's the mystery expressing itself as everything, even this confusion or identification or language and everything. It's not, it's not like awakening is better than non-awakening. It's all in the dream anyway.
And yet it is a little bit better at the same time. In the dream, or not in the dream.
Well, sure. In the dream, No, I don't imagine you were born awake but in the dream, I know they say at like 2.5 is somewhere that identification as a, you become a individual.
But wakefulness can continue after that even, and then subside. I think, I mean, do you recognize yourself, but there's still, just like it is now, like, so there's a parent person here and there's just oneness, and like, so it's just infinitely paradoxical, I guess, and that word's a bit worn out, like, but we'll have to do.
Yeah. All the words have been worn out. I'm just trying to address this question. Is language the confusion? No, I don't think so. I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is identification a problem that needs fixing? Or is it just what is, like anything else?
Identification and non-identification are problems that you can't fix. Like, I don't know. The problems continue.
Right. And not identifying as a separate individual is not the answer to all apparent problems. So, and well, Jack Saturday said, if no one is born, then there's no awakening. What is the conversation about? I have no idea. What is the conversation about? I thought it was non-duality, but somebody didn't appreciate the host very much. I guess it might be about something else. Anyway.
At the end of the day, you're still playing with yourself. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, we got about 10 minutes left. If any other questions? Oops, I got rid of. Sorry. There we go. Okay, Jack Saturday. If you have anything else, go for it. It's again, you have to point out, maybe I'm mentally preparing for this Course in Miracles thing, but they talk about level confusion, which is, on one level, yeah, no one's born, no one dies, nothing's happening. And then on another level, there's this apparent life being lived. And these relationships and problems and everything and the beauty of it. And it's an amazing story. And it was full of sound and fury. All that Shakespeare stuff. But anyway, it doesn't mean anything ultimately. But of course, a lot of things will mean something to me. And somebody called me out saying it wasn't personal, but yet I talk about me and, things. So if that sounds contradictory, it's because they're confused about where I'm speaking from. I'm not speaking like Mr. Gadada from the absolute. I'm just speaking. Is non-duality anything? No. Anyway. Well, we can wrap it up if there are no more questions or comments. Don, you got anything in closing here?
Yeah, just thanks for coming, everybody, and yeah, good fun. And we'll see you again next week, hopefully, some of you. And yeah,
We'll see you next week.
next week, same time.
Yep,
you.
same Zoom link. Hang on to that. That'll be the same one every week. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, goodbye.
I'll see you. Bye.
There we go.